Hello, welcome. My name's Peter Richards, and it's my great pleasure to be able to introduce you to the very first edition of Spotlight on Theatre. This is something which we're doing with Swan TV, and hopefully will become a regular feature, and you'll be able to tune in and have a look at us and see what's going on in the theatre scene in Swansea and the surrounding area. Throughout the next few weeks, we'll be looking at all the venues in Swansea and also telling you what's going on, who's doing what, and all the theatre gossip. So if you've got some interesting information, some interesting news, or you want some publicity for your show, then please get in touch, and I'm sure we'll be able to help to cover it along the way. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce you today to my very first guest, and well known to most people in the Swansea theatre scene, the doyenne of Swansea Little Theatre, Dreena Harvey. My very first guest is the doyenne of the Swansea Little Theatre, well known to most theatre goers in Swansea, the wonderful Dreena Harvey.
Thank you, Peter. What a wonderful introduction.
Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for being the very first guest on the show. At Swansea Little Theatre, of course, it's something you may not know, Dreena. I'll tell you this now, and that is that my very first steps on the stage were in the Swansea Little Theatre. Not where you are at the moment,
no,
but in the Palace Theatre.
Yes.
And that's going back to when I was a 13-year-old schoolboy in the Palace Theatre in a play called Escapade. Nobody has ever heard of the play now. So that's going back. I don't look old enough to...
No, of course you don't.
I played in the
Do
Palace.
you remember vaguely your parents, your mother being involved in some way?
My mother was in... she was a professional singer, but she started off with the Swansea Amateurs in the 1930s, and she played 3 consecutive leads there. Yeah.
I think I found the programme
You
with
did,
your
you showed it to
mother's
me many
name
years
on
ago.
many
You
years
did, yeah.
ago. I remember now.
Anyway, one of the
Lovely.
reasons why
Yes.
we've asked you to come along today, and you've been kind enough to do so, is not just to talk about Swansea Little Theatre, because we'll be coming and visiting you soon and having a look around the place in the programme.
We'll invite you, yes.
Thank you. But you've got a show coming on soon.
Yes.
And it's a very interesting show too, because I think most of the viewers will already know about Waiting for God from television.
Yes.
So tell me, I didn't realise until I looked it up that there was an actual accredited theatre version of Waiting for God.
Yes.
What came first?
Oh, the television series.
Right.
Michael Aitken wrote it back in the 80s for Stephanie Cole.
Yes.
Wonderful actress, and Graham Crowden.
Yes.
I like it particularly because it's such a fun part for the older, more mature actress. You know, the youngsters seem to get all the fun these days and galloping around stage, so
Right.
it's lovely. So I'm really pleased it's going to be on starting next Wednesday, because of course it was due to be a year ago and we were still hit by COVID. We had to call
really?
the whole thing off. So
Okay.
we kept the space open for a year. And cross fingers, it's going to happen next Wednesday.
And
So
you kept all the lines in your head for a year then?
yes, just about. It wasn't too bad actually.
What state of rehearsals did you got to before you had to call it off?
I think we got to about 8 days before,
Oh, really?
and it was an awful panic because we had to reimburse all the tickets.
Right.
Big refund. We cancelled the royalties because at that time we didn't know we would do it in a year's time. We
Yes.
left it fairly open, you know, so it was a bit of a headache. But we had 3 members go down with COVID.
Oh, really?
So
They're okay now, though?
yes, they're
Good,
fine. They're
good.
fine. So
One of the things I'm interested about with Waiting for God is I have never been involved in a show which is based on a television series, and I think it's very interesting, isn't it? Because you're taking on the mantle of a character, but the audience, I think, feel that they want you to impersonate Stephanie Cole.
gosh, yes.
How do you approach a thing like that? Do you do it as an impersonation?
I can't
or-
listen to that. I can't. I just
No.
have to do what Dreena does.
Right,
And
okay.
what's in the script. It was a television series, and this has been written. It was updated in, I think, 2018 with Nicola McAuliffe and Jeffrey Holland.
Yes.
So it is written for the stage and not for the clipped, edited little scenarios that you can do on television.
Yeah. So are all the characters in the television series in the show?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Yes, the idiot Baines.
Right.
Jane, the centre manager,
Yeah.
Jeffrey, the idiotic son.
Yes.
So they're all there. They're all there. It's a cast of about 7. So
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's lovely.
And obviously it's an original story. This isn't an adaptation from one of the
no,
episodes. or
no,
anything
no.
like that.
It's a new scenario.
Yeah.
The characters' approach to life and the lines are the same, crackling sarcasm.
Yes.
But the storyline is a little different.
Okay, just give us a little taste of the storyline. What can the audience expect to see?
Well, she's still as crabby as anything. I thought no acting required there then. But there's a little bit of a health scare. So we have a little bit of, good God, what's happening to our hospitals? Right. So it's a little bit more modern that way, you know. She's still very anti-marriage. Marriage is pure bourgeois feudal bollocks designed to tie women to the sink and reduce us to the level of chattels. So she's very anti-marriage, so others are getting married and she's going, what for? So, but it's a little bit of a health scare and a little bit of money.
Yes.
What are you doing here? Poverty, dear. So there's that sort of modern touch to it and that sort of thing.
Right.
But it's still very funny.
Okay. Swansea Little Theatre have done quite a few in the past of the television adaptations.
Yeah.
You've done Hello Hello, I think, have you done?
Yes.
And Dad's Army. And the audiences are good for those, aren't
they love it. They
Yeah.
love it. We've done, quite a few years ago now, we did Heidi High.
Oh, right, okay.
Dad's Army was not written for the stage. We had to adapt scenes ourselves to make it a continuous story.
Oh, right.
But Hello Hello, Jeremy Brett wrote a brand new stage version.
Yes.
And that flowed like honey.
Yeah.
Oh, there were no cuts and rushing on and quick changes. It flowed and every actor got a really good time and a good part,
Were you involved in any of those?
Oh yes, I was Madam Edith who couldn't sing.
You weren't Gladys Pugh, were you?
Sorry?
You weren't Gladys Pugh in Heidi High, were you?
No, I was, I've forgotten her name. Oh no, I was Yvonne, the dancer.
Oh, of course. Ah, yes, absolutely. Yeah, of course you did.
I loved it all, I loved that. So we try and do plays that people know because it's a fine line, Peter, between having really avant-garde or exciting drama
Yes.
that the audience don't want to see.
Yes.
So we have to temper it with a play they might know or an author they would know, somebody that's made a name. It's been, I think it might be 4 years by next year that we will be attempting an American, and it's written by Aaron Sorkin.
Okay.
Because he's done The West Wing since then,
Okay.
and he came to London to do the adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right.
So his name is known.
Yes.
So you latch on to things like that.
Indeed,
you
indeed you do. And of course, coming up in the autumn, you've got, presumably again this year, one of the biggest names in Swansea of them all, Dylan Thomas.
Under Milkwood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, Dylan Thomas was a member of the Swansea Little Theatre himself, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the shows he was in?
He wasn't very much with us, but he was a very committed. He was on the committee and decided on plays and things like this with Dylan. But of course, at the time, we didn't have the theatre.
No.
And we would rehearse in a little hall in Southend.
That's right.
And Dylan would be found more often than not in the Antelope.
Well, there's a wonderful story about that. I remember Nancy, of course, his sister was the member of Swansea Little Theatre,
right.
and she tried to drag him down. And right next door to the rehearsal room in Southend was the Mermaid.
Yes.
The Mermaid Hotel, and the story goes that he would go into the Mermaid and have a drink before going into rehearsals, and depending on the quality of the beer that particular night, he would decide whether to go to rehearsals or stay and have a pint. Mm-hmm. And he himself called this dilemma Muse or Mermaid.
Yes, I can believe
But
that.
you don't get those sort of dilemmas down
no,
at the Dylan Thomas Theatre.
No. Look, we've got a bar on site now, but not during rehearsals.
Okay.
No, we can't do
and
that.
This will be, how many times have you done Under Milkwood? Because it's an annual thing, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, we've been doing that, 50 years?
Yeah.
Since the 60s?
But it's a sort of play that lends itself to
yes.
repeat and repeat and repeat.
Yes.
It's just a wonderful play.
Yeah.
Absolutely marvellous. Well, hopefully we'll be talking a little bit more about
Lovely.
that. And I know that the Dylan Thomas Centre have just started a new exhibition called The White Book of Llanrheagar, which brings to light some very interesting artefacts from Dylan Thomas and Under Milkwood, and we'll be covering that in the programme in a couple of weeks' time. And of course, it's good to know that in the 70th anniversary of the play's first performance,
yes,
that there will be a production of Under Milkwood.
Oh, definitely.
So
I've been very pleased to say we've had lots of approaches, and we have somebody who's phoned already in June. Are you doing Under Milkwood?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm phoning from Germany and I'm
Wow.
coming over if you are.
Really?
And we get a lot of interest outside the Swansea area because Dylan is so well known.
Yeah, massive international name.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure there are so many good companies that do it.
Yes.
But I
Well-
always remember the script I had of Under Milkwood, a very old script with the foreword by Dan Jones.
Yes.
And he always said the best Under Milkwood I ever saw was by true South Walian accents.
Yes.
Not put on, the true accents. I think that is what Swansea Little Theatre aims for, is the authentic sound
Yes.
and the lilt of Dylan's prose.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, look, thank you so much
No,
for coming
pleasure.
along. Can you just tell us the dates and how people can get tickets to see
Yes.
Waiting for God?
It starts now on Wednesday the 16th of August up until the Saturday, and it's available through dylanthomastheatre.org, our website, and it will also give you the telephone number to phone the theatre, so you can book tickets over the phone or online.
Marvellous.
Super.
Dreena, thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Look forward to seeing
Delighted
the
to be
show.
your first guinea pig.
Good.
Thank you.